mean, it's too late. We've missed our numbers. We are below the threshold. And I ran a poll earlier this week to say, hey, if you totally miss your threshold, what did you do? So there were 218 companies that responded. Only a third of those actually said that no bonuses were paid to anybody, which I thought to be very interesting, because to me that suggests that 2/3 of bonus plans, we just don't adhere to them. Some key employees received a bonus. That's about 20%. All eligible employees received a small bonus, and then that was 38%. That was the largest group, and that's what I've actually seen personally. And then about 10% said we did something else. And I wonder too, from when I saw this happen, they said, shoot, we've got to create something, because if we don't pay a bonus, I think going back to everyone, the general sentiment that some bonuses feel like people are entitled to them. People will leave when those bonuses do not get paid out. I'm curious about best practices. I think, I loved Catherine's suggestion of saying that, names matter. And I've seen the comments where if we were to make an exception that's not in the bonus plan, that sets a precedent for next year and expectations for going forward. And I would just like to open this up for discussion in terms of, if it's too late, we've missed even the payment threshold overall, what is the right thing to do? And I know, let's try and not use the "it depends" answer, but what is kind of some of the best practices that we have seen? And for me, it was, they created a small pool, and then worked with the senior management team to identify who were the key performers. And it might not have been those that had the highest, 5-star ratings. It may have just been folks that were, steady eddies that were in core critical business pieces. I'm curious if we've seen had other experiences with that, and what has everyone else done? And I'll open with Jennifer, because you're on my top right, to see if you have any thoughts before. Let's see.
Yeah. I've seen, I think it goes back to the communication piece first and foremost, especially if you're doing exceptions, right? And how are you going to communicate it? I think I've seen, I've used with Catherine, that recognition bonus, calling it something other than that, because that precedent is very, very important not to set. So those are the things that I've seen, and in terms of, if you have, that performance piece, if everybody's rock stars, right, what do you do? And so being very aware, and from a fairness perspective, how are you going to distribute that? And again, communicating that is going to be, is the most important thing to do with it.
I would say also that those are the times that seeing the metrics will be not enough, because in some cases, the human perspective of seeing that guy, that lady, killed themselves for the company, putting everything, and not making the numbers due to market circumstances, for example, or any international case, scenario that might happen. Then you need to have a good conversation with at C-level and tell them, okay, guys, it's clear that we need to have a specific bonus for that person, just for the effort of making things done. So that's one of the things that we cannot forget in terms of the current circumstances of working in a globalized arena, where there are things that you cannot foresee. The invasion of Russia to Ukraine, the number of things that you might see, COVID, etc. Given the bonds because they are not making the numbers, even though it's outside their possibilities. I will always push for that idea of going to more having a human perspective, even though it's outside the policy, and just go ahead and do it and give it.
Yeah.
I did experience one situation where there was one particular group that didn't hit their metrics. So it was like there were overall company metrics and then individual group metrics. They did not hit it. So we did not pay out from the plan. However, there were bonuses distributed from the business to those individuals outside of the plan document. Can't agree or disagree, just giving you the information I have.
So And maybe this is not for this. Maybe this is a discussion we talk about in one of the other sessions. But we're all sitting here talking about like eventually you pay something out, right? And maybe it's a smaller amount, but according to your poll, Justin, lots of people are still finding a way to pay things out. And then you really go back to, are we really doing pay for performance? I mean, everybody says they are because it's like the least worst thing to say. I mean, the alternatives are worse. I think we would all, not worse, but because lots of people have them, but I think most of us go, we don't just want to give to people because you could have poor performers that are just still getting paid. We can't get comfortable with this idea of making it a given, yet when we don't hit it, we still find a way to still pay it anyway. So are we really driving pay for performance and all of these things? Or is it a nice thing to say and a good philosophy, but we don't actually execute on it?
I 100% agree. I mean, so as everybody's talking, so Jennifer, like I'm thinking of, like, I know Korn Ferry's done surveys, Morgan HR, I'm sure you've done, like we've all seen the surveys. WTW, we did a survey, and on short-term incentives, it was always funny because it was a huge percentage of people that even though they're not performing, they still get an incentive. And to your point, Greg, it's like, well, then what's the point? And I think, and I could say, statistically speaking, right, in pay equity analyses, typically performance rating is not a driver of pay, but that's not, when you think about it, that makes a lot of sense because we're not really paying for performance. We pay for the job, its impact, where it's located. There's a lot of other things we pay for. So with a short-term incentive, we should just be paying for performance, but we have to better define it. And I think that's I think what I keep coming back to. And I think what we're all talking about is by tying it to specific business metrics and maybe being more nuanced by different areas of the business. And let's just lean into the fact that employees know a lot more about all of this than they have. So great, let's embrace it, make it an educational opportunity. And, I think honestly, I'd be interested what the rest of the group thinks. I think the hardest folks to convince of that are going to be actually leadership and executives. Because it's
Absolutely.
Right? Okay. I don't think I'm alone in that. Like that's, I think, and again, I feel like that's compensation. Partnering with finance has an opportunity to kind of manage up and influence leaders and say, maybe there's a better way.
Yeah. And that's what Greg was
right,
saying early on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that people, you don't want to have the hard conversations, and we're all a little cowardly, at our core. Nobody wants to have those hard conversations.